We're making a soft and flavorful flatbread that doesn't require any yeast or rising and is gluten-free with almond flour, but they can be made with a variety of flours. We'll simply mix it together with Greek yogurt, egg, vinegar, and a few seasonings. Then we'll quickly cook them in a frying pan for beautiful naan-style flatbreads. Hello, my name is Nicole Bonilla, and if you love healthier recipes of all of our favorite foods, then you are in the right place. To make these super easy flatbreads, we're going to start with a medium-sized mixing bowl. And then we're going to add 1 egg and 1/4 cup of Greek yogurt. And you're welcome to jot down these ingredients as we go along, or you can click on the link that's in the video description below, and that will take you to the full recipe with all the details. And then I'm just going to whisk these together until combined. Next, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of some light olive oil. You can also use extra virgin olive oil or even some avocado oil. And to help make our flatbreads nice and fluffy and add a little more flavor, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of some apple cider vinegar. But you could also use white wine vinegar or just white vinegar. Now we're going to add 1 1/3 cups of almond flour, plus 1/4 cup of tapioca flour, and then we'll add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and then for some delicious subtle flavor, we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. But you could flavor these up any way you like. Then we'll add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then we'll just take our spatula and we'll start stirring this in our bowl. And a spatula works really well because you can just kind of mash it down so that the Greek yogurt and the egg mixes well with all the dry ingredients. And you just need to mix it until you no longer have any flour on the bottom of your bowl. And you'll know you have the right consistency when it just barely sticks to your fingers. Now, unlike most naan bread recipes, we are not going to roll this in any additional flour because we want our dough to stay nice and moist, which is going to give us a really light and fluffy flatbread. So we're going to need to use some oil instead of flour to work with our dough. So I found it works best to take a piece of parchment paper that is about the size of what we want our flatbread to be. And then I'm just going to fold it in half, make a little score line, and just tear my paper along the line. And then I'll take some of my olive oil and pour about 1/2 teaspoon in my hands. Rub that around so they get nice and greasy. Then I'm going to spread a little bit of oil onto that parchment paper. And then I'll scoop up about 1/4 of our dough to my hand. And then I'm just going to gently roll it into a ball. And then place it in the center of my parchment paper. And kind of spread it with my hand. And put a little oil on my other piece of parchment paper. Place that down on top of the dough, and then I can use my hand and really spread it out to my desired size. And I find that having this parchment paper on top makes it much easier to shape the flatbread. And you can decide if you want to have it in a perfect round shape or if you like it to be a little bit more oval or irregular. And you can tell with your fingers if you have it to an even thickness. And then we'll lift up the top, and you'll want it to be about an eighth of an inch thick. And then on these edges, I'm just going to go around with my fingers and just kind of smooth those in a little bit. Now to cook our flatbreads, I've just taken a fry pan over a medium heat, and then I'm going to pour in just a touch of oil because my hex-clad pan needs that to be able to have its non-stick properties. And I'm just going to take my flatbread with my hand underneath my paper, and then I can just flip it upside down on my pan and lift up the paper, and voila. And then we just let this cook for about 1.5 minutes before flipping it over. And then you're going to start to smell that little bit of onion and garlic powder that smells so good. And I'm going to take just a little peek underneath, and I can see that it's already starting to turn a golden brown. So I'll go ahead and flip it over, and we have this beautiful golden toasted flatbread. And that only took about 1 minute. And then after about another minute, I can flip it over and see that the other side is golden brown, so this is done. And then I'll repeat for the remaining flatbreads. And now we have this gorgeous stack of flatbreads. Now to make them extra tasty, you have the option of brushing them with a little bit of butter or some olive oil. I'm just going to take my pastry brush and brush some butter right on top. I'll go ahead and brush it on all the way down the stack. Ooh, those are nice and warm. And now you could load these up with your favorite toppings or tear them up and dip them in your favorite soup, or just enjoy them plain. That idea sounds really good to me right now. Go ahead and just break off a piece. You can see how nice and fluffy that is. That tastes so good. I love that the texture is light and soft, and it has the perfect amount of seasoning to complement whatever you're going to serve it with. And if you'd like to receive more healthy recipe inspiration and motivation, I invite you to click on the link in the video description below and sign up for my email list, because this is the best way for us to stay connected. And I also want to thank you for hanging out with me today in my kitchen. And I've included the link to this full recipe in the video description below as well, which takes you to my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone else who you think would love this recipe, please share this video with them. And I cannot wait to have you hang out with me again in my kitchen.